Have you ever picked up a Gibson Les Paul, tried to bend the strings, and noticed it was extremely hard? In this video, we're going to explain why that is and explore 3 different options to overcome that. Let's talk about the inspiration behind this video. I was given a guitar lesson to one of my talented guitar students. We were doing the Stairway to Heaven solo. And typically this student brings a Stratocaster to lessons, but this week he brought his Les Paul. There's a point in time in the solo where you bend the 8th fret on the 1st string. And the previous week, the student nailed it on his Strat. But then when he went to his Les Paul, he was having issues. Now, this was in the middle of the lesson here, so I didn't have time to change strings or to wrap the strings around the tailpiece. So what I did is I took a flathead screwdriver, went to the tailpiece, and turned each of the tailpiece screws one full turn. And after I did this, the student was able to effortlessly bend that 8th fret on the 1st string. Then we started to talk about why that is. And I also went over some different sort of solutions we could have to this problem as well. Then after this lesson, what I did here is I went to the studio here and I shot a quick little short, reel and all that was about 20 seconds long and went over a couple of solutions here. And that reel ended up blowing up a little bit. And I really didn't have much time to answer all the comments. So I decided to create a longer video explaining why and different solutions for us. Let me address a couple things in the comment section that I've got tired of responding to. Shorter scale guitars have less tension in them. You can look it up. I promise you they do. A Gibson Les Paul has a scale length of 24.75 inches, okay? A Fender Stratocaster has a scale length of 25.5 inches, okay? So the Stratocaster has a longer scale length. If all of the variables were the same with the bridge, the shorter scale guitar would be easier to bend, okay? The shorter scale guitar has less tension on it. Please Google it, I promise you. And also, I got a couple of comments here saying, oh, that's not true. It's so much harder to bend my Les Paul than it is my Ibanez. And I'm like, yes, that's the point of this video. Quite literally, that's the point of this video. That's why I made it. So what is making the Les Paul harder to bend? Quick answer is the break angle. What is the break angle? The break angle is the distance from the bridge to the tailpiece. If that angle is too steep, there is unwanted friction causing the bend to be difficult. One thing to get clear here, and I can see how it wasn't clear in the short video because it was only 20 seconds, is that the actual string tension does not change, okay? It is the friction that is making this bend difficult. So what do we want to do? We want to find ways to alleviate that break angle. Here's a test you can do if you don't believe in this break angle stuff. Take your Gibson Les Paul, bend a note on the 1st string, okay? Go to your tailpiece. Go to these tailpiece screws, take a flathead screwdriver, turn each screw a couple turns, make sure to turn each of them the same amount, retune because your guitar is going to be out of tune, bend it again. I promise you it's going to be easier to bend now. Now let's go over 3 different methods that we can do to alleviate this break angle, make our Les Paul more playable, okay? The first thing we can do is we can raise the tailpiece, okay? Take a flathead screwdriver, turn your tailpiece screws, 1 turn, 2 turns, however many turns. Obviously don't unscrew them. And you're gonna notice that it's gonna be a lot easier to bend, okay? What are the pros and what are the cons of this? Okay, the pros of this is that you don't have to restring your guitar, right? And also, a little bit tends to go a long way. If you like how your Les Paul is playing, but you just want to make it a little bit easier, even 1 turn does a significant amount of help. So go ahead and experiment with that. Now, what are the cons? Some people believe that if the tailpiece doesn't make contact with the body, then you are going to lose sustain. Some people believe that raising the tailpiece will cause the Les Paul to lose sustain. I personally don't agree with this, and if it is, it's minimal enough to be completely outweighed with the playability, okay? And one thing I've noticed on certain Les Pauls, if I raise the tailpiece, sometimes I'll run into tuning issues, but on other Les Pauls, tuning is a little bit more stable. So there are your pros and cons. Now, the second thing we can do to, alleviate that string bending, a lot of people mention this in the comment section, is to change strings. If your Les Paul comes with 10s on it, you can move to 9s or even 8s, right? And that'll, of course, make string bending easier. Okay, what are the pros of that? The pros are, you don't have to mess with your tailpiece. Just toss new strings on and you're good. Probably get a setup with the lighter string gauge. But what are the cons of that? So we've addressed the fact that the tension is still the same. So it's not an issue of tension, it's an issue of friction. You aren't addressing the break angle. Although it's easier, I'm still one of those guys who believe that you lose a lot of tonal qualities moving to 8s. I know that that's very contested on the internet, but I am a session guitar player, and I noticed that actually one time I was doing some Yngwie Malmsteen in one of my lessons here. We're doing arpeggios from hell. What I did is I took one of my EVH guitars and I restrung it with 8s, so jamming with a student there. And I came in for a last minute session. Typically this guitar has 10s on it, right? And the producer mentioned to me, he was like, why did your guitar sound different? What's wrong with your guitar? I didn't have the courage to tell him that I changed string gauge there, but I tossed the other strings on the next day and had no issues. So I believe that heavier strings do produce a better tone. So I would not move down to especially 8s. I have a couple guitars that have 9s on them. Now, the third thing we can do to alleviate that break angle is something called top wrapping. What is top wrapping? Top wrapping is when you feed the string through the opposite side of the tailpiece and bring the string over the bar. Okay, what that does is that eliminates the break angle, makes it easier to bend. What are the pros of this? Okay, obviously it's easier to bend because you have alleviated that break angle. Also, people who make that sustain complaint with raising the tailpiece now say that since the tailpiece is right to the body of the guitar, that you're going to get more sustain. What are the cons of this? Okay, so a lot of times, and I'm glad somebody in the comment section actually mentioned this too, this can cause the guitar to sound a little brighter. Depending on the style of music I play, I don't particularly like that. There are a couple Les Pauls that I top wrap and a couple of them that I don't. And another complaint people have is that top wrapping the guitar will scratch the tailpiece bar. I personally don't really care about cosmetic stuff like that, but some Les Paul players are. And one thing that I learned from the comment section here on my video is that some people top wrap some of the strings. Okay, I've never heard of that before. I'll go ahead and go ahead and look into that. But some people are going to top wrap strings 1, 2, and 3, and normally wrap 4, 5, and 6. I don't know if that's any good or not. I've just noticed some people do that. Do that at your own risk. Okay, in conclusion here, what should you do? Okay, if you love the way your Les Paul sounds with the tailpiece all the way to the body and you don't have a problem with string bending, by all means, keep it up, right? But if you wanted to explore a couple of the options, I think you should take 2 or 3 of the different things we explored today and try them out for yourself. And like I said before, on certain Les Pauls, I tail wrap, and on certain Les Pauls, I'll raise that bridge. So even between guitars, I notice a difference. So all in all, have fun. Continue to argue in the comment section. Thank you so much. See you next time.